أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كذبت قوم لوط بالنذر إنا أرسلنا عليهم حاصبا إلا آل لوط نجيناهم بسحر نعمة من عندنا كذلك نجزي من شكر ولقد أنذرهم بطشتنا فتماروا بالنذر ولقد راودوه عن ضيفه فطمسنا أعينهم فذوقوا عذابي ونذر ولقد صبحهم بكرة عذاب مستقر فذوقوا عذابي ونذر ولقد يسرنا القرآن للذكر فهل من مدكر. Continuing Surah Al-Qamar. In the past passages, there was discussion regarding some of the nations and the prophets, their coming to the people, the reaction of the people, and Allah sending punishment to them due to not obeying their prophet. The next nation that Allah Azza wa Jal speaks about is the nation of Lut, Qawm Lut. And Allah Azza wa Jal, whenever He speaks about the Qawm Lut in the Qur'an specifically, there is a change in tone, in that there is not only in the text, Allah Azza wa Jal speaks about the great and amazing punishment that He sent to them, right? For reasons related to their sin and their immodesty. But in the actual text and the rhetoric of the text, you can see that there is immense anger of Allah Azza wa Jal when discussing the nation of Lut. Lut alayhi salatu wasalam, as some of the historians mentioned, was the nephew of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and he was sent as a prophet to his people, and he served at the same time as Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. And Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was informed about the state of the people of Qawm Lut, right, the people of Lut, and regarding that Allah Ta'ala would be sending punishment to them, to which Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam questioned and asked that Lut alayhi salatu wasalam is amongst them, how can you send a punishment upon them? So the nations before, when Allah Azza wa Jal speaks about them, in the history of these people, Allah Azza wa Jal does not mention years. Right? There's never a nation, and Allah Ta'ala mentions a year, that in year this took place, or this happened, in this number, or this decade, or this century. Allah Azza wa Jal always speaks about history regarding events related to guidance and disobedience. That guidance was sent to the people did not accept the guidance. If they disobeyed, then Allah Azza wa Jal punished them. Allah Azza wa Jal punished them. And so Allah Azza wa Jal mentions here the state of the people of Lut. They did as the nations before them did. كَذَّبَتْ قَوْمُ لُوطٍ بِالنُّذُرِ, that the people of Lut belied his forewarnings. So we sent upon them a raging storm of pellets except for the family of Lut. So Allah Azza wa Jal punished them immensely. What is it that they did? The Qawm Lut were the first nation to start a very unnatural sin amongst mankind. Right? So there are sins, it's important to understand that there are sins that go against a person's Islam perhaps. There are sins that go against a person's Iman. There are sins that go against a person's Ihsan. Right? Just like there are different degrees to your amal and your good deeds and things that you do, there are different degrees to sin. You have kaba'ir and you have sagha'ir. You have smaller sins and you have more major sins. So you have sins that go against Islam, you have sins that go against aqa'id, your beliefs, those are even stronger. And then you have sins that go against a level even below that, which is more foundational, which is nature, fitrah, and being human. So being human. So the nation of Lut, they desired to have intimate relations with the same gender, and due to this, Allah Azza wa Jalla says they were the first nation to start this, and because of this, you can see the anger of Allah Azza wa Jalla upon them. As we know in many places in the Qur'an, Allah Azza wa Jalla says He does not like change in His creation. Right? He does not change in His creation. The way He created things to be, right? They will be, they should be. And so when such a perverted change came amongst the people of Lut, Allah Ta'ala sent them an astounding punishment. And it's for that reason as well that when the scholars of the past discussed the state-related punishment of what the punishment should be for intimate relations amongst same gender, that they did not have an established punishment. Ibn Abbas was asked. Why? Because there's lashes for certain people, there are certain punishments that the state establishes according to the Qur'an, according to the Sunnah. Right? The Messenger ﷺ himself established them. But for this sin, there was no punishment. There's some narrations, Ibn Abbas said that they should be given a punishment that the entire society sees it and takes a lesson. And so some punishments are very strongly mentioned. So this sin is something that Allah Azza wa Jalla, you can see His dislike for it, and that the people of Lut were the first people to indulge in this and to desire it. And what did they say when the Qawm Lut, actually there's a lot of lesson in which we can relate to. Because it's not just the indulgence in the sin that Qawm Lut, the people of Lut, did. It was establishing it as okay in society, and that doing such actions are fine, right? And normal. So much so normal that anything besides this is abnormal. So when Lut ﷺ and the believers would, they would not indulge in this, or Lut ﷺ would guide them against this, what would the people say? إِنَّهُمْ أُنَاسٌ يَتَطَهَّرُونَ, that they're to be clean. Now, how strange can a moral situation of a certain person be, a person's moral compass, that they can describe being clean as something bad? Since when has that ever been the case? Right? But this is the reality of when society wants to distort what's haqq. Right? Society wants to distort what's haqq. They turn the haqq into batil, and they turn the batil into haqq. And this is why it's not a legal system which will protect what's haqq and what's batil, but it's Iman and Islam which will do so. And so the many, of course, countries protect the rights of these people and establish their freedom, so much so in today's time that even Muslim countries feel pressure. Right? They feel pressure because of the situation. But our Iman and our Islam tells us that this is not just wrong, but this is an extremely wrong sin. And this is something that angers Allah and calls towards the punishment and wrath of Allah Azza wa Jalla. And so then when Allah Azza wa Jalla sent a punishment to them, He sent many punishments, not just one, but He sent many punishments to them. One of them being that He sent pebbles, rocks over them and pelted them, and each person, Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Qur'an, that each person's name was written on the rock would follow them The rock would follow them until it would hit them. Musawwamatan, Allah Azza wa Jalla says. And after that being that Allah Azza wa Jalla sent an angel, and the angel took the town on its wing and flipped the entire town. So Allah Azza wa Jalla shows His astounding anger with these people because of their disobedience to Lut alayhi salatu wasalam. So He says, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, we sent upon them a raging storm of pellets, except for the family of Lut. So the pellets that Allah Azza wa Jalla sent, as He describes in Surah Hud, that it was musawwama, that each person's name, each person's something pointing to them was written onto that stone, and it was sent on each person directly, and it would follow them. نَجَّيْنَاهُمْ بِسَحَرٍ. The people, the family of Lut alayhi salatu wasalam, they were the only people, we delivered them at night's end. كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي مَنْ شَكَرٍ. As a blessing from us, thus do we reward one who gives thanks. Those who acknowledge Allah Azza wa Jal and are thankful to Him, Allah protects them. وَلَقَدْ أَنذَرَهُمْ بَطْشَتَنَا فَتَمَارَوْا بِالنُّذُرِ. Very truly, Lut alayhi salatu wasalam had forewarned them of our warning, but they doubted the forewarnings. Lut alayhi salatu wasalam guided them, tried to guide them, many instances, several instances tried to guide them and do whatever is possible so that they could stay away from such sin. But their immodesty and disrespect and lack of etiquette only increased. وَلَقَدْ رَاوَدُوهُ عَنْ ضَيْفِهِ فَطَمَسْنَا أَعْيُنَهُمْ فَذُوقُوا عَذَابِي وَنُذُرْ. Yet even His guests did they wickedly solicit of Him. Thus we blotted out their eyes that night, saying, taste then the pain of my torment and the outcome of my forewarnings. When the guests, Lut alayhi salatu wasalam had guests, and those guests were handsome young men, and the disbelievers tried to seduce them and tried to wrong them, Allah Azza wa Jalla says that we punish them by destroying their eyesight. طَمَسْنَا أَعْيُنَهُمْ. We destroyed their eyesight. فَذُوقُوا عَذَابِي وَنُذُرْ. And so taste the pain of our torment and the outcome of my forewarnings. Now there's a very unique connection here, in that the sin that they're committing is a sin of immodesty and a sin of which comes from the person's animalistic side. What is the punishment for them? We destroyed their eyesight. So the eyes have a direct connection with a person's modesty. This is why in Islam we're guided to lower our gaze. And our eyes, they embody a spiritual quality, or should embody a spiritual quality. As the scholars would say, that a person's spiritual body has many qualities. The eyes, the two eyes of a person should be the eyes of haya, the eyes of modesty. Right? So when a person's immodest, or when they were immodest, Allah Azza wa Jalla destroyed their eyesight. And there's a unique connection in that. This is why in Islam the wisdom behind lowering the gaze is so that it stops the fitna from ever entering into the heart. It stops the desires and the false desires from beginning, right? To shut the door from the beginning, right? And so the only way to stay away yourself individually and societally, to protect society from whether it's zina or the sin of the people of Lut, it's by establishing boundaries and establishing modesty. Right? This has to be done. So the way that the nation and the people's desires are regulated are through these certain qualities and certain actions, like lowering the gaze and modesty, etc. وَلَقَدْ صَبَّحَهُمْ بُكْرَةً عَذَابٌ مُسْتَقِرٌ. And very truly an unyielding torment came upon them in the morning, that the next morning then Allah Azza wa Jal sent His great punishment over them, and that is when the Qawm Lut, the people of Lut, were destroyed. And وَلَقَدْ صَبَّحَهُمْ, that this is not the only place that Allah Azza wa Jal says that a nation was punished the next morning. That the people think that the night passed, the next day started, and we can continue to go back to our old ways and nothing will happen. But then the punishment of Allah comes at surprise. عَذَابٌ مُسْتَقِرٌ, a punishment which they cannot remove, a punishment which no one else has any hand in removing. فَذُوقُوا عَذَابِي وَنُذُرْ وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. And very truly, so taste then the pain of my torment and the outcome of my forewarnings. This is a repetitive ayah in this Qur'an and in this surah. And very truly we have made the Qur'an easy for remembrance. So take a message from this, take a message from this story. We have made it easy for you and I to take a message. So this repetitive ayah is for us to prepare ourselves before we enter into the next surah, which is Surah Al-Rahman. So Allah Azza wa Jalla gives us a glimpse of the repetitive style, which is also a style of rhetoric, so that you can then notice it and read it properly and study it when you go into Surah Al-Rahman. We'll pause here. There is still 2 sections left of the surah. Inshallah, we'll pause here and we'll continue with the rest of the surah in the coming week. May Allah Ta'ala grant us understanding of this, ability to bring it in our lives, and forgive us for any shortcomings in our mistakes or misunderstandings of His perfect word. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. صدق الله العظيم. سبحان الله وبحمده. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت. نستغفرك اللهم ونتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خيرا.